Have you ever felt that strange moment when everything in your life seems to be moving forward, and suddenly, out of nowhere, things begin to go wrong? Not because of your mistakes. Not because of bad luck. But because someone cannot stand seeing you win. Tonight's story is about a level of jealousy so intense, so shocking, that when the truth finally came out, nobody could believe it. And if you think you've already seen jealous people before, wait until you hear this. Because what happened next changed everything. A few years ago, there was a man named Daniel. Daniel wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He wasn't the smartest person in town. In fact, most people would describe him as ordinary. But Daniel had something many people secretly wanted. Peace. While others constantly complained, Daniel smiled. While others fought, Daniel stayed calm. While others compared themselves to everyone around them, Daniel focused on improving himself little by little every day. And strangely, that bothered people. At first, nobody noticed. The signs were small. Very small. A friend who stopped congratulating him. A coworker who suddenly became cold. A neighbor who always seemed irritated whenever Daniel shared good news. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. Just tiny cracks. Tiny clues. Tiny warnings. The kind most people ignore. But here's something most people never realize. Jealousy rarely arrives wearing a mask that says, "I am jealous." No. Jealousy disguises itself. It hides behind fake smiles. Fake support. Fake concern. Fake friendship. And that's exactly what happened. One day Daniel received a promotion. Not a huge promotion. Just enough to improve his life. He called his closest friends. Most were happy. Or at least they appeared happy. But one friend, a man named Marcus, reacted differently. Marcus smiled. Marcus congratulated him. Marcus even bought him dinner. Everything looked normal. But Daniel noticed something strange. Every time people praised him, Marcus changed the subject. Every time someone talked about Daniel's success, Marcus became unusually quiet. Every time Daniel shared a future goal, Marcus found a reason it wouldn't work. Again. Small signs. Easy to miss. Until the pattern became impossible to ignore. Then something even stranger started happening. Important emails disappeared. Opportunities suddenly vanished. Conversations seemed to get twisted. People started acting differently toward Daniel. As if they had heard things about him. Things that weren't true. At first Daniel thought it was coincidence. Then he thought it was bad luck. Then he discovered the truth. And what he found shocked him. Someone had been quietly attacking his reputation. Not publicly. Not openly. Secretly. Strategically. Patiently. Like a person pulling strings behind a curtain. And the person responsible? The last person he expected. Marcus. His friend. The man who smiled at him. The man who hugged him. The man who said he supported him. For nearly 2 years. 2 entire years. Marcus had been planting seeds of doubt everywhere. Small comments. Tiny rumors. Little suggestions. Never enough to expose himself. Just enough to damage Daniel. But why? Why would someone do that? The answer is terrifying. Because Daniel represented everything Marcus wanted to become. And instead of improving himself, Marcus decided to pull Daniel down. Think about that. Some people are so uncomfortable with another person's growth that they would rather destroy that person than improve themselves. That realization changed Daniel forever. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because jealousy has a strange characteristic. It grows. The more it is fed, the bigger it becomes. Marcus wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. Much more. One evening, Daniel received an anonymous message. It contained screenshots. Private conversations. Hidden discussions. Evidence. The deeper Daniel looked, the worse it became. Marcus wasn't acting alone. Several people had joined him. People Daniel trusted. People he helped. People who sat at his table. People who laughed with him. People who knew his struggles. Behind closed doors they mocked him. Criticized him. Celebrated his failures. And feared his success. What happened next was unbelievable. Instead of confronting them immediately, Daniel stayed silent. Very silent. He wanted answers. He wanted proof. He wanted to know how deep the betrayal went. So he watched. And what he discovered revealed an important truth about jealousy. The jealous person is often obsessed with the very person they claim not to care about. Marcus constantly monitored Daniel. Checked his social media. Asked mutual friends about him. Tracked his progress. Compared every detail of his life. Imagine that. While Daniel focused on building his future, Marcus spent his energy watching Daniel's life. And that's when everything began to make sense. Jealousy creates a prison. The jealous person becomes trapped. They stop growing. They stop learning. They stop improving. Because all their attention is focused on someone else. Meanwhile, the person they're jealous of keeps moving forward. One night, something happened that nobody expected. A major opportunity appeared. The biggest opportunity Daniel had ever received. The kind that could completely change his future. Only a handful of people knew about it. Marcus was one of them. Days later, the opportunity disappeared. Gone. Destroyed. Someone had sabotaged it. The evidence pointed directly toward Marcus. And finally, the truth exploded into the open. When confronted, Marcus initially denied everything. Then he blamed others. Then he made excuses. Then something shocking happened. He confessed. Not because he felt guilty. Not because he wanted forgiveness. But because he was exhausted. Exhausted from years of pretending. Years of comparison. Years of resentment. Years of jealousy. And what he said stunned everyone. He admitted that every success Daniel achieved felt like a personal failure to him. Every promotion, every compliment, every opportunity, every victory. He couldn't handle it. Because instead of measuring himself against who he was yesterday, he measured himself against Daniel. And every comparison made him miserable. That confession revealed a lesson millions of people need to hear. The fastest way to destroy your happiness is to compare your journey to someone else's. Someone will always have more. Someone will always be ahead. Someone will always seem luckier. But the moment comparison becomes obsession, jealousy takes control. And when jealousy takes control, nothing good follows. Now here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Many people expected Daniel to seek revenge, to expose everyone, to humiliate them, to make them suffer. But he didn't. Instead, he walked away. Quietly. Completely. No dramatic speech. No public battle. No revenge. Because Daniel understood something powerful. The greatest victory is not destroying your enemies. The greatest victory is refusing to become like them. Months passed. Then years. Daniel continued growing. His career improved. His relationships improved. His peace returned. Meanwhile, Marcus remained stuck. Still angry. Still bitter. Still comparing. Still wondering why life wasn't improving. And the answer remained the same. Because jealousy had stolen years from him. Years he could never get back. Now, you might be wondering why this story matters. Because somewhere around you right now, there may be someone who secretly feels the same way. Not because you've harmed them. Not because you've done anything wrong. But simply because your progress reminds them of what they're not doing. Pay attention. Notice who disappears when good things happen. Notice who celebrates your failures more than your victories. Notice who constantly minimizes your achievements. Notice who becomes uncomfortable when you grow. Those signs matter. Because jealousy often reveals itself through patterns. Not single moments. Patterns. Repeated behaviors. Repeated reactions. Repeated negativity. And here's the most important part. Do not allow someone else's jealousy to convince you to shrink. Too many people dim their light to make others comfortable. They stop sharing their goals. Stop pursuing opportunities. Stop dreaming bigger. Stop becoming who they were meant to become. Don't do that. Keep growing. Keep learning. Keep improving. Because the people who genuinely care about you will celebrate your success. They won't feel threatened by it. They'll be inspired by it. There's a huge difference. As this story comes to an end, remember one final truth. The most jealous people are not always strangers. Sometimes they're close. Very close. Sometimes they're watching quietly. Smiling politely. Pretending perfectly. While secretly wishing you would fail. And that's why wisdom matters. Pay attention. Trust actions more than words. Trust patterns more than promises. Trust consistency more than appearances. Because not everyone clapping for you is cheering for you. Some people are simply waiting for you to fall. But here's the beautiful part. When you stop seeking approval from everyone, their jealousy loses power. When you stop explaining yourself, their opinions lose power. When you stay focused on your purpose, their negativity loses power. And when you continue moving forward despite everything, you become unstoppable. So if you've been wondering why certain people changed when your life improved, if you've been wondering why some people seem uncomfortable with your success, if you've been wondering why support suddenly disappeared the moment you started winning, you may have just found your answer. Be careful. Stay observant. Stay wise. Because jealousy is often closer than it appears. And sometimes, the person who envies you the most is the person you never suspected. But never forget this. Their jealousy is not proof that you're failing. It's often proof that you're moving forward. Keep going. Your story is bigger than their envy. Your future is stronger than their bitterness. And your success does not require their permission. Not now. Not ever. The story should have ended there. Marcus was exposed. The lies were uncovered. The truth had finally come out. Most people believed Daniel could now move on with his life and never look back. But they were wrong. Because sometimes the most dangerous part of jealousy is not what happens while it is hidden. The most dangerous part is what happens after it is exposed. For a few weeks, everything seemed peaceful. Daniel focused on his work. He stayed away from drama. He avoided gossip. He refused to discuss Marcus with anyone. And slowly, life started feeling normal again. But then something strange happened. A mutual friend called him late one evening. The friend's voice sounded nervous. "Daniel, I think you need to hear this." "What happened?" There was a long silence. Then the friend said something chilling. "Marcus hasn't stopped." Daniel froze. At first, it didn't make sense. Marcus had already been exposed. Everyone knew what happened. What more could he possibly do? The answer would shock him. Because Marcus wasn't trying to repair his reputation. He wasn't trying to change. He wasn't trying to move forward. He had become obsessed. And obsession is jealousy at its most dangerous stage. The friend explained that Marcus talked about Daniel constantly. Every conversation somehow returned to Daniel. Every discussion somehow became about Daniel's success. Every complaint somehow involved Daniel. Months had passed. Yet Marcus seemed unable to think about anything else. Imagine being so consumed by another person's life that your entire identity becomes tied to them. That is what jealousy can do. It slowly transforms admiration into resentment. Resentment into obsession. And obsession into self-destruction. Daniel wanted to ignore it. He really did. But soon more reports arrived. Different people. Different places. Same story. Marcus was still watching. Still comparing. Still complaining. Still angry. And then came the event nobody saw coming. One afternoon, Daniel attended a business conference. Hundreds of people were there. Professionals from different industries. New opportunities. New connections. A fresh chapter. Everything seemed perfect. Until he saw a familiar face. Marcus. Standing across the room. Watching. Not speaking. Not smiling. Just watching. The sight sent chills down Daniel's spine. Because Marcus had no reason to be there. None. Their industries were completely different. Their careers no longer overlapped. Yet somehow Marcus appeared again. And suddenly Daniel realized something important. The problem had never been success. The problem had never been opportunities. The problem had never been money. The real problem was that Marcus could not accept seeing Daniel happy. And there are people like that in the world. People who don't necessarily want what you have. They simply don't want you to have it. That distinction changes everything. Think about it carefully. Some people aren't trying to improve their lives. They're trying to reduce yours. And that is a very dangerous mindset. The conference continued. Daniel ignored Marcus. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Eventually Daniel relaxed. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe Marcus was there for some legitimate reason. Maybe he was overthinking. Then the messages started arriving. Anonymous messages. Again. Just like before. Only this time they were more aggressive. More personal. More disturbing. Someone was trying to provoke him. Trying to make him react. Trying to drag him into conflict. But Daniel remembered a lesson life had taught him. Not every attack deserves a response. Sometimes silence is the strongest answer. So he ignored them. Day after day. Week after week. And that decision would become one of the smartest choices he ever made. Because eventually the truth surfaced. The messages traced back to Marcus. Again. Only now something had changed. People were no longer believing him. Why? Because lies become weaker when they are repeated too often. At first people listen. Then they question. Then they recognize the pattern. Then they stop caring. Marcus had spent so much time attacking Daniel that everyone started noticing something. He never talked about his own goals. His own achievements. His own dreams. Only Daniel. Always Daniel. And that revealed the deepest secret of jealousy. The jealous person often gives away their own weakness. Without realizing it. Because eventually people ask an obvious question. If you're doing so well, why are you constantly talking about someone else? That question has no good answer. One evening Daniel received unexpected news. Marcus had lost his job. Not because of Daniel. Not because of revenge. Not because anyone targeted him. He lost it because his performance had collapsed. His focus disappeared. His energy disappeared. His motivation disappeared. Everything had been consumed by comparison. And suddenly a painful truth became visible. While Marcus spent years watching Daniel's life, Daniel spent those same years building his own. One was growing. The other was watching. One was creating. The other was criticizing. One was moving. The other was standing still. And time never rewards people who stand still. Weeks later, Daniel encountered someone who knew Marcus well. The conversation revealed something heartbreaking. Marcus had once been talented. Very talented. Years earlier people believed he would become highly successful. He had opportunities, potential, intelligence, drive. So what happened? The answer was simple. Comparison happened. Instead of focusing on his own race, he began watching everyone else's. And every year the habit became stronger. Every year the resentment became deeper. Every year the jealousy became heavier. Until eventually it defined him. That realization hit Daniel hard. Because he finally understood something. Jealous people are often fighting battles nobody sees. They may appear angry at you. But deep down they are often angry at themselves. Angry about wasted time. Missed opportunities. Unfulfilled dreams. Broken expectations. And seeing someone else succeed forces them to confront those feelings. Not everyone handles that confrontation well. Some become inspired. Others become jealous. The choice determines everything. Months later, a remarkable event occurred. Daniel was invited to speak at an event about personal growth. Hundreds attended. Near the end, someone asked him a question. What is the biggest lesson you've learned about jealousy? The room became silent. Daniel thought carefully before answering. Then he said, the biggest lesson is that jealousy doesn't hurt the person being watched nearly as much as it hurts the person doing the watching. The audience became quiet. Because everyone knew it was true. The jealous person wakes up thinking about someone else. The jealous person wastes energy on someone else. The jealous person loses sleep over someone else. Meanwhile, the other person often has no idea any of this is happening. Jealousy is like drinking poison and expecting another person to suffer. It never works. After the event ended, many people approached Daniel. Some shared stories about toxic friends. Others shared stories about jealous relatives, co-workers, neighbors, partners, former friends. The patterns were always the same. Different faces. Same behavior. The realization was powerful. Jealousy may wear different clothes, but it always leaves the same footprints. Constant criticism. Hidden resentment. Fake support. Secret competition. And an inability to celebrate another person's success. Years passed. Marcus slowly faded from Daniel's life. The messages stopped. The rumors stopped. The monitoring stopped. Everything stopped. Not because Marcus won. Not because Daniel won. But because reality eventually forced a decision. Either keep comparing. Or start living. And finally Marcus chose to start living. The moment he stopped watching Daniel, something unexpected happened. His own life began improving. Slowly. Not dramatically. But steadily. Because all that energy finally had somewhere productive to go. His own goals. His own future. His own growth. The lesson could not have been clearer. The fastest way to reclaim your life is to stop obsessing over someone else's. Now, before this story ends, there is one final warning. A warning many people ignore. Be careful not to become the person you fear. It's easy to recognize jealousy in others. Much harder to recognize it in yourself. Pay attention when someone succeeds. Pay attention to your first reaction. Do you feel inspired? Or irritated? Motivated? Or threatened? Happy for them? Or secretly uncomfortable? Those moments reveal more than most people realize. Because jealousy doesn't begin as hatred. It begins as comparison. And comparison seems harmless. Until it grows. Until it spreads. Until it consumes. That is why protecting your mind matters. Celebrate others. Learn from others. Be inspired by others. But never measure your worth against someone else's journey. Your timeline is different. Your story is different. Your path is different. And that's okay. Because the moment you stop comparing yourself to others, you become free. Free to grow. Free to learn. Free to improve. Free to become the person you were meant to be. And maybe that's the greatest victory of all. Not defeating jealous people. Not proving anyone wrong. Not getting revenge. But refusing to let jealousy, yours or theirs, control your future. Remember that. Because somewhere, right now, someone is wasting years watching another person's life, while their own future waits patiently in front of them. Don't be that person. Keep your eyes on your path. Keep your focus on your purpose. And keep moving forward. Because the people who spend their lives watching others rarely become the heroes of their own story. But the people who focus on their own growth eventually create a life that no amount of jealousy can ever take away.